Hi, I'm Parry, and this video is a review of Hospify, which is an app recently approved by the NHS for use in secure messaging within the NHS. I thought I'd do this short review because our health board approved it to be used in emergency situations last week for things such as messaging a pharmacy with regards to a prescription done on an urgent basis. And I guess it would only be used if there's no other means of getting the prescription to the pharmacist urgently, or doing so in person would expose somebody to a high risk of contracting coronavirus. I guess it's been promoted because most, if not all, healthcare workers will be carrying a smartphone and can easily download this app and use it for such purposes as messaging securely. Now, this app has been around for a while, but has become more publicised in the last few days for obvious reasons. I'm not going to go through the background history of the company that produces this app or its original purpose. You can read about this in the links provided in the YouTube description below. Now, you can either download the app from your app store, or you can do what I'm doing here and search for Hospify on your browser and click the Hospify-NHS link. That then gives you a description of the app and its main purpose. And then you can see there's links to both the App Store for Apple users and Google Play for Android users. I thought I'd stay on this website a little bit longer, just because the security for the app is so tight, which is a good thing, that I've not been able to take any screenshots of how it works, or any video screenshots of how it works using an Android device. So I've stayed on this NHS website and showed you what the interface looks like from their website. You can see that one of the first things you need to do is set up a PIN. So this is part of the security for the app, and you need to create a 6-digit PIN. Now, this is both a strength and a weakness, I think, of this app. So I found that every time I logged out or went away from the app for a few minutes to do something else on my phone, that I had to re-enter the PIN into the app, which is great in terms of security, but I guess it would slow down the user that's going back and forth between different applications on their mobile phone. One of the things I noticed when logging in for the first time and searching for other users was that it was difficult to work out who those people were. So you had their first name and surname, and possibly a photograph that they'd uploaded to their profile picture, but I couldn't easily determine whether these people were the people I thought they were, unless they had some kind of description of their NHS role. One of the big advantages of this app over something like WhatsApp is that it doesn't share your email address or mobile phone number with other users, and there's no monetization connected to this app. Going back to the PIN again, I'm told that fingerprint recognition is in development for the future, so that would actually make logging into the app a lot more straightforward. Now, in terms of the main user interface, which I can't show you here because I'm not able to take any screenshots, you've got 4 sections. So it's chats, groups, contacts, and settings. So very similar to something like WhatsApp. So what I'm showing you here is an example of a chat between different clinicians, and as you can see, somebody's discussing an ECG with an uploaded photograph of that ECG in the chat. Now, one key thing that I need to highlight in terms of information governance with this app is that if you're actually uploading a photograph into the app, you need to take the photograph by using the camera icon from within the app. If you don't do it this way, the photograph will be stored in your mobile phone's gallery, and of course that's very likely to also be backed up to your mobile phone device's cloud. So there's confidentiality issues there, both in the short and medium to long term. When you're on the receiving end of receiving a photograph, the photograph, or the image rather, initially looks a little bit opaque or pacified. So when you click on the image, it starts downloading. But the important thing to highlight here is that it doesn't download into your phone's gallery, but does download within the app. And the data is actually stored on your phone and not on a cloud server. One other great advantage of the app is that all messages in transit are deleted within 72 hours. And all messages are deleted automatically from a user's mobile phone after 30 days. It's also easy to delete contacts. So many contacts could be one-off contacts. For example, a district nurse may want to have some means of communicating with a patient during this coronavirus crisis, but wouldn't want that to be on an ongoing basis. So once the purpose of that conversation and setting up that contact has run its course, the contact can easily be deleted from the app, and the patient wouldn't have any access or had any access to the district nurse's mobile phone number or her email address. Inviting people to join conversations on this app is quite straightforward. So you can do it in a variety of different ways. One way of doing it is to search for them within the app. And if they've installed Hospify on their own mobile phone, you can search for them. And as I said earlier, it's a little bit difficult sometimes to work out who somebody is. For instance, if there's two John Joneses, I'm not quite sure whether I'd be able to differentiate between the two unless they've actually listed their profile information in a bit more detail. The other way is to invite somebody by SMS text message. So if they're listed as a contact in your mobile phone's contacts, you can actually pick out the person from the contacts and send them a text. And lastly, you can share this through various other means, such as Twitter and Facebook and WhatsApp, inviting those people to join. So when somebody gets a text inviting them, the text will look something like this, and then they need to click on the Get the App Hospify logo, and like you'd expect, that takes them to a download page in an app store. From the point of view of the actual messaging and user interface, I don't think personally that it's as good as WhatsApp, but I guess there's a reason for that. So it needs to be more secure. So for example, you can't kind of click on a part of a conversation and forward it or copy it, and you can't really reply to one segment of a conversation thread, unlike WhatsApp. Neither are you able to do things like embolden parts of the text. So I guess if the threads become very long, it's very difficult to find out exactly which part of the thread that you need to be referring to, and to be able to keep that in mind and link another person into that conversation. As I've already mentioned, one strength is that you're not able to screenshot a part of the conversation using an Android device. But at the moment, it is possible to do that when you're using an Apple device. I think one of the key strengths of this app compared to WhatsApp for me is the fact that all the kind of sensitive images that people send each other don't end up in their phone galleries and backed up to the cloud. Unless, of course, somebody inadvertently takes a photograph of something like a sensitive document from outside the app, rather than clicking on the camera icon from within the app. One of the downsides for me is that if you're sending something like a long document or a long prescription, you'd have to take multiple photographs and create multiple attachments to attach them to the message within the thread, as opposed to another solution such as texting a PDF file version of whatever information that you want to send to the other end. The other thing to be careful about is the governance at the receiving end. For example, who has access to the app at the receiving end, and when, where, and for what purposes, etc. But you'd have to go through this with whoever you're setting up the conversation with. So, for instance, if you were using this to send copies of emergency prescriptions to the pharmacist, I'd recommend that you'd probably set it up by verifying things over the phone, so you know exactly what they're going to appear like within the app, so that when you accept an invite to join in a conversation with that person, you'll know that it's the person that you've actually had the conversation with over the telephone and agreed to set up this way of working. The other couple of downsides are that it doesn't obviously auto-populate into your clinical system. So there'll be no automatic record in your clinical system. So, much in the same way as with things like faxes and emails, you'd need to sort of have some kind of entry saying that you've sent a copy of some kind of clinical information to somebody, so that you have an audit trail for future reference. And of course, lastly, although this may seem trivial in ordinary circumstances, you will need a mobile phone device as well as your PC, and that's sometimes a bit tricky when somebody's fully gowned and they're working in red zones and restrictions created by the coronavirus pandemic. One thing I need to highlight is that I've focused on the basic functionality of the app, given that the purpose of the Health Board approving it for our use was to try and help out with things like sending an image of an urgent prescription to the pharmacies. But it is important to highlight other functions, such as the ability to set up groups and the hub function, where you can have 10 users in the free version of the app, and if you want to increase beyond this, you're allowed to do that in the premium version. I've not gone into that because locally I know there's a plan to imminently introduce Microsoft Teams through NWIS here in NHS Wales, which is probably going to be something that GP practices will want to explore before deciding whether to take up the premium version of Hospify. So I'd probably summarise Hospify as being a reasonable option under the circumstances, and I'd say that it would be a good option to send an emergency prescription to a pharmacist, but maybe not a perfect option by far. So I hope this video has been helpful, and thank you for watching.